How do you quiet? Some of you are yawning. It's getting late in the day. I used to teach a class so it was for master students, and it was late in the afternoon. It was from I think 4:30 or 5 o'clock until 6 o'clock. And they were all, at the end of the class, they were all asleep. But it was an experiment to have classes late in the afternoon so people could work and take their master's degree like that. So, in the exam, underline keywords. Well, you can't underline keywords, but you can highlight them, I think. And remember the clues. I'll go back to the clues. And keep and use your sense of humor. Think about something funny during the exam. Otherwise, you'll be bored to death. So here we start with, I actually called this a recap. So it's a recap of what you need to know for the exam. 7 people. There are only 7 people. If somebody told you to know 7 people, it would be easy. You could meet them. It's Blake, the one with the spiritual, religious. You can remember some keywords. The one who etched his drawings. The one who had a wife that he used as a slave to sort of color his drawings and work in his printing offices. And he wrote, Innocence, Experience. Robert Burns, he's sort of separate from all the others because he's Scottish. And William Wordsworth, remember his rainbows and daffodils, all that. Well, I'll go through the poems. And Coleridge. So it's these 4 guys and these 3, Lord Byron, Shelley, and Keats. I remember how closely they were knit, and how young they all died. Lord Byron at 36, Shelley at 29, and Keats at age 25. So these are the ones who died young, and the last 3 ones. And when I say look for clues, look at these lines. Thou rose path the Atlantic. Level powers cleave themselves and imagine an ocean. It's coming apart. An ocean. The ocean cleaves itself to let the wind is so heavy. And I said the word. You know where this comes from. So if you're trying to look at keywords, see this vision in your mind. The sea blooms. The sea blooms and the oozy woods. If you're going from the sea to the woods, and it's something that affects and the ocean and the woods and the sea, they all hear they hear thy voice. So whose voice could they hear? They couldn't hear the skylark, or they couldn't hear the nightingale, because that's only for one person to hear at the time. So if these vast expanses of land or sea and ocean can hear a voice, it's the voice of the west wind. So that's why I say look for keywords, and they tremble, and especially this "oh here," because I don't know how many of the stanzas end with "oh here." Yes.
Could we get a question looking like this, or will they be exactly like in the Testament?
They will be like they are in the verses. This I just took from. This is how they looked before. I went technical, and so you'll see them. You'll see them in a different. They'll be on the screen, but they won't be exactly like this. But they'll always be set. This would help you because "Ode to the West Wind" is the only poem that you read that is completely set up of it's 3 lines and 3 lines and 3 lines, and you can see them, the 3 lines there together. So you can, and remember there were how many sets of 3 lines in each stanza? And then it ended with 2 lines. So 3 lines are called, yeah, you know it. Tercets, yes, 3 lines, tercets, and it always ends with 2 lines, which is a couplet, yeah. So it's tercets and couplet, and because they rhyme in a special way, the tercets, the poem is called. No, that's right. Yeah, somebody. It's not Ottawa rima because it's not 8 lines that rhyme, but it's something else rima because it's 3 lines and 3 lines and 3 lines. and remember the word tercet, and we are talking about Italian, like ottava rima, 8 lines, and this is terza rima, yeah. So the form of this is terza rima. Yeah, and you remember ottava rima and terza rima. So this is the west wind, and you will look for these key words. You would just, if you look at all the lines and not about the words, you won't realize what it is. But when you look at certain keywords, we'll see other samples that help you. And of course, to make poets clear in your mind, like I said, each one of these poets. So he was the atheist, the one who got kicked out of college because he and his friend. Anybody remember the name of his friend? It was Hogg. H-O-G-G. So it's Hogg. And they wrote this pamphlet that they distributed. They didn't distribute it, they sent it to all the bishops and heads of colleges at Oxford. So you can imagine, do a bad thing, but do the worst thing. Send a pamphlet about atheism to the bishops. So, and his philosophy, it was Godwin, and he also had another philosophy that he particularly liked. That's the one of, anybody here? David Hume. It's another philosopher that he particularly liked. And he drowned on the Don Juan, which was a boat, and he was sailing in Italy. And he wrote the Defense of Poetry. We can again think there are 3 works on poetry. It's Coleridge's Biographia, it's Lyrical Ballads, it's Wordsworth's Lyrical Ballads, and then it's Shelley's Defense of Poetry. And in Keats, we had instead, we don't have a work, we have his letters. Keats expressed himself in his letters. And this is when you think about Shelley, it's good to have an overview. It was these 4 poems, and mainly what they're about: mutability. These would be the key words in mutability: dreams, liars, changes. It's all about change. And the last, do you remember, the last line of mutability was nothing is certain but mutability, or nothing is certain but change. And so it's 4 stanzas, 4 lines each. It's pretty simple. Ozymandias, statue in the desert, face less great king, but power isn't eternal. Power ends. Ode to the West Wind, it was these 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 2 lines. The keywords: autumn, angels, Atlantic, lyre, spirit. It ends in a prayer: make me thy lyre. And you remember that lyre is like a harp. So the wind should play on him like a harp. And to a skylark, the 5 lines, because the last line, you remember these longest, and sorry never singest, and singest never sorest, or something. It was this long last line, which is actually only 5 iambs, and it's called a long line, which is hexameter, iambic. No, it's 6 iambs. Iambic hexameter. They're called Alexandrine. Yeah. So that's in Skylark. It's the last line, longest is an Alexandrine, and it ends with "Teach me, I'm listening." So if you have this simple idea about each of the poems, it's easier for you to remember them. And what he's saying in the Defense of Poetry, concentrate on the slides because the text, is pretty difficult to go through. Look at this. He says he talks very much about the Aeolian harp, and remember, play me, make me thy lyre, an Aeolian. I can never pronounce this Aeolian harp. It's the one that the wind plays on. So that's he says the poet is like the harp moved by the wind, and he says that poetry can't be translated. And would you agree with him? Because he says, how can you put the words of how can you the meaning is lost when you get the words into another language. So he was against the translation of poetry, and he says the poet is like a nightingale. Don't let that confuse you. He says the poet is like a nightingale, but he didn't write Ode to a Nightingale. So that was kids. And poets are legislators. So if you remember something about the works, so many students, they don't realize to look for clues. Clues are, you must be like Sherlock Holmes. Looking at these lines, you look for clues. What tells me where this is from? You know, this is, you can be like, yeah, Sherlock Holmes, or my friend Monk. You can do like this. Do you ever watch Monk? And you do like this, you're looking at the lines. So these are your cues, and they tell you something. So I never pick lines that are completely out of context. I always pick lines from when I want you to recognize lines from a poem. I think there is a key word in this that would help them, you know, help them pick up what it is. And yeah, so I said this was meant for the students that failed for the exam. If you were physically in class, where was your mind? Because I had said all the things that were on the exam. But I'll come back to that. The new exam format is 50 questions. Each answer counts 0.2. So if you answer, say if you answer 30 questions, you've guaranteed correctly, you've guaranteed to yourself a 6. And 5 questions about each poet. So it's 35 questions, and 10 questions from Romanticism, which could be, you know, name the poet, or some question about Romanticism in general, like you have a quiz on Romanticism on the website, and 5 questions on recognition, poet, title of poem, the ones like we just saw. So here again, hint. Look at keywords. Look at the keyword. I had it, yeah, and in the penultimate line, such as in a strange land, who roams across strange land, who can't leave sorrow behind him, roaming across the world, all over, doomed to wander. Look at this. It was if no joy, no sorrow lurked behind, and he, as one. So it is, and especially this guarded coldness. And he imagined himself in fancied safety. Remember he thinks he has drunk his cup of life and he has quaffed his cup of life, and he imagines himself to be safe, but then he needs to wander again. You know who it is now. Childe Harold, yeah. So this is, and you could also see, so this is this is the whole stanza, so it should help you. And he's searching through the crowd to find fit speculation. And he goes from land to land. So this is fancied safety. And this was discussed in the class on Byron. That, and joy or sorrow left behind. Remember, he's wearing his conscience. It was like chains that dragged him down, and he couldn't walk because his conscience, his guilt, was dragging him down like chains. So he wanders over countries, but his guilt follows him everywhere in a strange land. This must be Childe Harold. Here again, which keywords would you look for? Here's the name. Here's the name. And yeah, you said it. Who doesn't care for his reputation? That would be, you know, you may lose these things, but if you know what to look for. Yeah, who was it? Don Juan. He doesn't care for his reputation. And he's following Antonia's emotions. Why isn't anything happening? Yeah. South European name, Antonia, Don Juan. And remember, don't let it confuse you, because they look very much Don Juan and the Eve of St. Agnes, they may confuse you, because it's Antonia. If you see the name Antonia, it's a sort of South European name like in Don Juan, but it's Angela in the Eve of St. Agnes. Angela is the old woman that grieves Porphyro and takes him the room of the room of Marilyn. So this should help you, and he doesn't care anything for his reputation. These are the key words you look for. And now, in the fit, he cursed thee and thine. So somebody is being, and because it's, it could be an apostrophe. If it wasn't within quotation marks, you know that somebody is speaking. So somebody is not being addressed. This is a conversation, this is dialogue. So it's not, you remember, if you could address the Wild West Wind and it would be apostrophe because you're not addressing somebody who's there, but this is actual dialogue. And the poem with a lot of dialogue is the one that you read for Tuesday. Look at these words. He cursed thee and thine. So this is actually who's speaking? I just said her name. The woman in St. Agnes. Angela. This is Angela speaking. She's speaking to Porphyro, and she says. So she's saying she's looking at the guests at the party because it starts with a party. Remember, there's that dwarf is Hildebrand, and there's that old Lord Morris. She's talking about the guests of the party. You remember later the guests. So Marilyn, she sneaks out to get out of the room to go to her own room. So this is actually the old lady. She's looking at the guests, but she's talking to Porphyro, and she says, "Alas me, flit like a ghost away, flee like a ghost. You should get out of here because these people want to kill you." So you look, it's Family Feud, the Romeo and Juliet kind of thing that is very typical for Saint Agnes Eve. And flit like a ghost. There's so much talk about ghosts in that because of that Gothic theme. You remember the Gothic theme. And follow me, child, because she's telling him, follow me, or else these stones will be the end of you. So follow me, child, and she's telling somebody to follow her. So it's ghosts, and flit means flee. And saints, so it's Keats' Eve of St. Agnes. This should be easy for you to know. Yeah, at least you know of course, because here you have a very clear indication. And so, which poem is it? Yes. It's Scotland. Somebody is fighting for Scotland, and there was only one in which they fight. There were these three. It was the Holy Willie's Prayer, which is this hypocrite who thinks himself the best person in the world, who will have eternal life. And there's Tam O'Shanter, which I know a lot of you like the Tam O'Shanter tale because that's a tale. And this is Robert Bruce's March to Bannockburn. So it's all about fighting. And this, I was so surprised that not more students couldn't answer this question because I thought it was so easy. Yeah.
The Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
Yeah, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Coleridge. Yeah, because is this the lighthouse top I see? Would somebody on land be very much excited to see a lighthouse? Oh, this is, so this person must be at sea. Is this the hill? Is this the kirk? You see the archaic language, kirk instead of church. Is this my own country? If you were on land, you don't look under yourself and think, well, am I standing in my own country? So it must be somebody seeing it from sea. So it is the ancient mariner. Oh, you see from the sea, I must have been hurrying there. A typo. It's good to go with you through this because I'm sure you don't follow. You may even get, accidentally you may get these same lines at the exam. These are the first line of a poem that we talked about the day before yesterday. And here, my heart aches. What would you look for here? Yeah, it is the light wind triad of the trees. And remember, if you're thinking about if it's the skylark or if it's the nightingale, he's all the time while he's watching he's wishing that he was drinking wine, vintage. Remember, an old person draught of vintage. So he's thinking, I would like, I've never heard anybody remember praise wine or what was the other thing that he had? Praise wine or something else like the nightingale does. And you know it's also, you're singing of summer in full-throated ease. So, and yes, you use the elimination. Look at the other thing that you must exclude some possibilities. If it was the skylark, the longest, we talked about the Alexandrine, the long line. That would tell you it's the skylark. The long iambic, the long 6 iams of the so that's another thing to tell between the skylark and the nightingale. And because they're different in form. Ergo, John Keats, Nightingale. And this. Yeah, Blake. Good. And which poem? No, there's an indication here. Yeah, the little black boy. And these black bodies, it's the mother talking to her little boy. And no, here it's the little black boy talking to a white boy. And we're saying these black bodies and this sunburned face, his own sunburned face. That was good. So we didn't have black bodies in any other poem. This was this was just a little something for the people who had failed to recognize this, because it was, I think it's better for you to know what to expect and what to look for. So you'll all. So this is just from last year, but it helps. People were supposed, the work English Bards and Scottish Reviewers is. Yeah, Lord Byron's. Many people were fooled by the Scottish Reviewers. So they said, so they thought Burns didn't talk about English bards. He wouldn't dare to put that in his poetry. He didn't talk about English bards. And if it was Wordsworth, the Leeds Gatherer had nothing. Use the elimination. Just think it couldn't be this, it couldn't be that, it couldn't be. And the address given at the beginning of a Burns dinner before the haggis is cut, couldn't be that. It's not about English bards, so it must be Lord Byron's response. This one also tells you how to use elimination. So I don't know if you see this. So it's the discussion of Romanticism. It names 4 examples of protagonists who feature the demonic-driven heroes of literary Gothicism. Who are these? And if you look at the first choice, The Ancient Mariner, Jane Austen's Mr. Darcy, Wordsworth's Girl in We Are Seven, and Shelley's Ozymandias, you'll think, the little girl in We Are Seven, is she a demonic-driven? She couldn't be. So that would exclude this question. So you could just think, there's one person there who couldn't possibly be demonic-driven, sweet little girl.
Is the answer B?
It's the answer B. Your Leeds Gatherer, the wedding guest, the poet addressing the skylark. No, because the poet addressing the skylark isn't demonic. So you take it out, and then you think Byron's Manfred, Frankenstein's creature, yes, demonic. Heathcliff, yes, demonic. Captain Ahab, yes, demonic. They're all demonic. So just, and think of the last one, the poet in Wordsworth Prelude. You know, it couldn't possibly be. Wordsworth didn't write these Gothic elements, but you see, so it's actually C. So use elimination. Think it couldn't possibly be this. Instead of thinking, could it possibly be this? Think it could not possibly be. Strike out, strike out, strike out. again, a poet said about another poet, what an antithetical mind, tenderness, roughness.
Lord Byron or Byron?
Yeah, it was on Byron, because here you think inspired clay, because you couldn't, Keats wouldn't be, associated with the earth. The only farmer here, the only poet associated with the earth could be inspired clay and coarse. Coarseness would be a thing that you would never use about Shelley or Keats or Byron. They're not coarse. They're not farmers. So this is so inspired clay is the poet. So it's Byron on birds. This you remember? Yeah, it means day and night, like the Icelandic Sólarhringur, derived from Latin. And yeah, it meant 24 hours. Yeah, and I remember this. So this was meant for them, because I said, do you know another word in Icelandic for 24 hour? And this, who is she and what has happened?
Death and life.
Yeah, she's the, we've talked about that. I've won. She won the Ancient Mariner, because she was playing, and who was playing cards with her? Or rolling dice with her? Yeah, it was Death. So he got all the other, do you remember how many men on the ship? 200, yeah, 4 times 50. So he won all the others, and she won the Ancient Mariner. So this was from last year. You had to write a few words about some sentences. So enjambment. But here in this exam, because I can't have you writing, but answers you need to. You know what enjambment is?
Yeah.
Yes, it's.
Oh.
Oh.
When they combine one line.
Yeah, when one line runs into another. So it was, talked about in. This was the first class we had. When it's an enchantment. When I think of a pretty girl, there were I think only of the, I had 110 students then. I think only about 5 of them recognized enchantment, could write something. And it's very funny. Sometimes it's funny when I'm reading exams, when you can write in exams, because somebody who has absolutely no idea sometimes writes something very, very funny. So when I'm reading in the exams, I sort of sometimes laugh out loud because they write something. Enjambment, like, and you remember it comes from the French word for jambe, means leg, because it's like running over to the next line. So the Romantic canon, you remember that? Yes, Rakenas. It's a gun that they used to shoot the Romantic poets.
It was the 7 poets.
Yeah, it was the canon is sort of somebody. It's poets that you've decided who are the best. The canon in Iceland would include, who would it be? Killian, whatever. You would have a canon. So you choose the Romantic canon comprises these. Burns and Scott. So this was from the first class, and a mention of many apartments. Yeah, the word Keats, and why did he discuss? So when you have a question like that in a try to write, when you're given, you don't have a chance in this exam to write much, but when you have the chance to write, I sometimes wonder why people say the whole thing. You may have just write Keats, and instead of it's Keats, and he's talking in one of his letters, so you would say this is Keats from one of his letters. Yeah, he's talking about age. His life is like moving. In life, you move through it's like moving from one chamber to the other in a house of many, in a mansion of many apartments, and which is a good sort of a good metaphor for it.
Okay,
And
you probably believe the reincarnation.
Yeah.
There was a mansion of many apartments.
Yeah.
Just was
So
one
it's,
of them.
yeah, so you could be reincarnated in another one. But it is so try to say one of these quizzes on TV, and you're given a clue, and you must imagine what the question is. So you go on and on and on and on until the leader says stop. You've answered the question. So try to write more instead of less. It's better because you may be leaving something out that you didn't. It's just for other exams. And this is what he said. Two of which we can only describe. And why could he only describe two of them? Remember, he was only 25 when he died. A refrain, you remember what that is?
To repeat.
It's to repeat something, like we say in Icelandic, viðlag, a refrain. So in Blake, we had mentioned that Little Lamb Who Made Thee, Dost Thou Know? You remember it always ends. Every stanza ends with a refrain. So it's a repetition. And to drag and drop. This was actually, in the old times before the age of technology, you had to put a line between the inward eye and who would be the inward eye. And who talked about the inward eye? Who was lying on his couch thinking about the inward eye? So it's something it is something that yes, you know. Yeah, Wordsworth, yeah. The inward eye, that's Wordsworth. He's actually, so the inward eye, they flash up. We talked about it in the they flash up in that inward eye. I won't expect you to remember every word from every poem, but if it's something that we have discussed and we have dwelt on and it's mentioned in the study notes, I expect you to know it. I don't, normally leave out words in a poem and say, what's the missing word, unless it's been discussed. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. So it flashes upon the inward eye because he doesn't actually see it. The inward eye is in your memory. It's the eye that looks on things in your memory. And the one life. Who talked about the one life? Yeah. This is from one of your slides on Coleridge, but the underlying themes, it's themes of loss, renewal, the one life, communion with living things. And also, when we in the explanation for Frost at Midnight, the short will, the child, his son, will become aware of the one life. So we've done the one life. So it's hours of idleness. Yeah, it's Lord Byron, because he wrote this, and we talked about how can you give a poetry collection? How do you expect it to get good criticism when it's called Hours of Idleness? He was sort of putting himself into, but it was so it's the title of one of his collections, Lord Byron, in his Hours of Idleness. So that was, remember also, that was what caused, a criticism of that was what caused him to write English Bards and Scotch Reviewers. It was called Hours of Idleness. So we have a boat named Don Juan. Yeah. What? Shelley, yeah. Because so many people said Byron in the exam. They were fooled. They were fooled. They didn't see the boat. So it was like you, but you all recognized it was a boat called Don Juan. And yes, they sailed on the Don Juan. It was the boat called the Don Juan. So that is it. And then we're only left with, and you know who did that. Beauty is truth, truth, beauty. These are the famous last lines of a poem by Keats, and it's called Ode on a Grecian Urn, right? So yeah, so this was sort of to the students, you know, because all the answers, as you could see, all the answers to the words I wanted them to explain were actually on slides. So you should go through your slides and look at them. So pay attention to them. And this is for the midterm exam, which is 30%, and then the final exam, which is 35%. And enjoy. Don't just, you know, don't. It isn't often. I realized when I was studying, when I was, you know, one of you, just a few years ago, we were joined in one class that I thought this is, it was actually interesting material. So it was African American literature in America. So we were joined by women who were sort of in a reading circle, and they were doing this for fun all the time. And we thought, you know, it was really it was really good for us to know that people actually do this. They want to meet, they want to discuss literature, they want to read literature. So don't, you know, don't just focus on the exam. Try to enjoy the literature as well. So it's not just, and that does a whole lot for your memory. If you enjoy something, you remember it. So it's, and therefore I also say choose to write your essay about your poetry essay. Choose a poem that you like. It's very important. It's no fun to write an essay about something that you're really not interested in. And there must be one poem out of all of these that you're interested in. So the exam, it's in either one of these two rooms, and be sure which room you signed up for. I'm going to take a look at that. I'm taking a look at the one upstairs by the information desk, but I'm going to look at Oddi as well. No books, no dictionary, only writing utensils, and remember the chain of association. Use that piece of paper to try to think and look for keywords. Fish out the keywords and it only, yeah, I want you to pass the British literature exam. Da-da. And that's, I think we won't start Victorian literature today. We'll just talk about that on next Thursday. And I'll see you on Tuesday. If you have some questions in the meantime, just post them on the class. And I wish you all good luck and enjoy your